Welcome, everyone. This is Nichel Anderson, and I'm your host for my podcast show, Nichel Anderson Short Stories and Beyond. Thank you so much for joining me today. And we're going to kind of get into this. This is my director clip notes. I'm going back to focus on some episodes that I didn't get done. I was working on other projects like my music and so forth, which has been released on August the 22nd of this year. I do encourage you to check that out. Nonetheless, we're going to move forward. I do want to say thank you for all those that have been supporting me, checking out my music and what have you, my stories. I do appreciate you. You can follow me on either Instagram or Twitter, what have you. I still call it that, y'all. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and jumpstart this. The last few were kind of long because I had a lot that I was covering, like also going back to a previous season. I'm going to do the next director clip note is episode 63. We're going to get into that, and then we're going to get into some character breakdowns from season 1. Then I'm going to talk about episode 22nd. That's from season 1. So, and then after that, then I'll share some updates on MOLIAE World, and then wrap it up. How about that? Hope everybody's doing good. We're going to move forward today, as this would be the last episode of this year, going into next year, right where, leading up to my finale of season 9. So, all right, let's go ahead and let's get started. My goal is not to make this too long. The last one was like almost an hour, and I'm releasing I should be releasing another interview episode. So that's, nonetheless, here we are. So I do want to say again, thank you so much for those that are supporting my music and even my other projects with MOLIAE towards my goal to film my movie that I've been waiting to do. So first we're going to talk about this episode here. Let's go ahead and get started. I get some stats as well. So this is going to be for MOLIAE, the short stories. This was published on December the 12th, 2022. This would have been season 6. Okay, right now we're on season 9. I've been podcasting for 9 years. Can I get a hey on that? Okay, so this particular one is Queen Hagar enters the realm of Orion. It's episode 63, season 6. Some data stats on that. As of right now, it's how many downloads? It's 1,471 downloads as of today. Now, this particular episode give you kind of give you some information. I am going to play a clip. I'm doing that now with my director clip notes. Instead of just kind of talking about it, I'll let you hear some audio of it. If you want to listen to the whole episode, I'll have the link, or you could just search for it here on Podbean. Let's give the backstory. The previous episode, that was episode 62 that I did the director clip notes. That's when everybody's finding out about Hanee and how abruptly he left the world, intergalactical world scene. Prior to that was episode 61. That was finale. That's one of my all-time favorites, I have to say. I love all my MOLIAEs, but it's something about that MOLIAE short story with focusing the main character, which is Hanee. It's just kind of really, it's just, to me, just went superstardom on that. It's just awesome how I presented the content to, it's almost like a movie. So that's a very good one to go back and check that out. So from that point of episode 61 that I just talked about with feature Hanee of the Abyss, Hanee chooses a new path. Basically, he left the scene abruptly because he was forced out. And Hanee has connections to my book and to some characters there that was from Orion. Then we get to episode 62, which I just did, and the world scene, the world leaders are finding out about it. So now we're in 63. So Queen Hagar, this is another, to me, an epic type episode. I think by 2022, I was really getting into the groove of telling my stories in a way that I'm actually, like you're looking at a movie. Particularly how this is at least a year before I started my music journey. I started that one about 2023. But prior to that, you can see that I really was honing on understanding post-edit, because post-edit with film, I mean, it's still kind of the same, but it's kind of different because the medium, the outlet of it, you're really focusing on telling the story that the person can actually visualize it in a way with the alignment of the music at the right point. I noticed I was doing that when I started in 2017 and 2018, particularly 2018, and it just kind of flow like the right type of line matched up to the right type of music. And this taking that journey in music taught me a lot, dealing working with other talented artists on my album, what have you, even learning about their journey, their own album, really hone on their, the style that they use to express what they have to say. So prior to that, here in 2022, and meeting all of them and going through that journey, I was learning how to position the composition to match up. Now I see that it was only not just that, but it was something bigger that was coming through that God was blessing me with to do, which was the album, my first album. So in this particular one with Queen Hagar, I love it because she's basically the center star in the sense of they decided they had a vote. This is in Egypt, ancient Egypt. I call it Mitzrayim. And who's going to be, they was having a big meeting in the galactological universe, you should say, because Hanee had such power and now he's not there. Who they going to put in? Is it going to be somebody crazy? So they had to send, like, think of as a diplomat. So the whole family is going to go to Orion, and they end up picking Queen Hagar to be the spokesperson. This particular one is interesting because as I'm writing these stories all these years, I'm learning more about my book. So my book, Mitzrayim, A Memoir of a Past Life in Ancient Egypt, was a timeline of the daughter of Queen Hagar and King Mahlon. In that particular book, it kind of went forward where she's going to eventually be married. But Queen Hagar always came out as very powerful, not just of her beauty, her intelligence, but just her energy. So we fast forward because my podcast is a timeline before my book started. That helped me to keep going with my dream to make it a film, right? So this podcast show breaks it down in that way. So we're kind of going back in time. But since I never wrote these stories of my podcast, I only wrote the book. I'm learning about these characters more as I'm able to go more in depth before Princess Amelia was born. Anyway, when I did this episode, it really opened up to learn more about Queen Hagar's own story. Not only she's highly intelligent, but she knows several languages. We find that out in episode 1, my MOLIAE Short Stories, here on my podcast show, Before the Time of Princess Amelia, where she speaks the Orion language of Natu. Natu is the first Orion that comes into this timeline of my podcast show. He's in episode 1. He's the one, fast forward, in episode 60, so I'm going to get it 61, with Of the Abyss, Hanee chooses a new path, where they chose to side with Natu and oust out Hanee. You see how deep that went? So all the way, all these stories that I've been doing my podcast is all interconnected, as well as to the book, most of the characters, which I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But this particular episode, I'm going to play the clip just to set it up. Number one, we found out she was learned, like she went to school in Orion. How is that so? You're going to have to keep on connecting to my podcast show to find out that. But as I'm channeling her, I realized that she got access to high rank leaders. Her mother is somewhat involved in it, as well as her father, her father's grandfather, Tahib. You hear about that in my book and so forth. But for whatever reason, it's like she spent time there. So what's that about? That's something to look forward to in the future. So we find that out in this episode because they voted that she would be the best one since she communicated with them before, been around them before, and so forth. You find a little bit about that in my book, but in the podcast show, we really go deep. And so now she's the queen in ancient Egypt. She's with Mahlon, her parents are there, and they're there to represent pretty much the planet Tamat. Because back in the day, Egypt was the place of people coming to for world commune, if that makes sense. And she's chosen, and then there's a scene where she's meet this right before the big vote of who's going to take over Hanee, because it's going to impact other areas. We find out that Queen Hagar knows the head leader of Hawaii. It's like knowing, the head ruler of a planet. And they go way back, or at least when she was a child, and something interesting about her mother. So you have to tune in to find out about that. yeah, so I love the whole scene. I love towards the end where I'm changing up the composition of the music. It flows very well and mysterious. If you got to see the pictures of the abyss, Hanee chooses a new path. Think of it because that's Orion. Okay, that's the scene where Hanee decide he's gonna jump and he's gonna just leave it all behind and move forward. And that scene with Queen Hagar in this episode talks about it should be a leader that's so fair and balanced, yada 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 on that, and the history of it. So it's a very good episode. I highly recommend it. And again, it's Queen Hagar enters the realm of Orion. We're going to hear a clip now and take it from there. Let's roll that clip.
Queen Hagar of Mitzrayim, from the planet Tamat, and daughter of Queen Mother Memi and elder Ukneo Tahi. I am married to King Mahlon of Ukneo. Thus, with great heart and position of authority, I seek a moment to declare the position of rule that the next roll into the Ukneo Council be of peace that we all seek. The peace that we all deserve after that New Orleans war, years of drought and despair, that the person selected today or thereafter of this afar would be of righteousness. For I and my King Mahlon have experienced the deeds of those that more than so are sitting here amongst that left as such a treacherous scar of unjust, that with the warranty of me I remain and sustain my anger amongst them. She looked around and there was silence and spoke. And them, she looked around to her right, and them, powerful silence engulfed the room. Over 8,000 attendants there. She spoke again. We and I might be of your species in the dinat abad of our being, but we have a heart, and thus the balance of power and decisions must be upheld to the highest, as we are still looking for those that started the upheaval amongst our people. The disloyalty among the tribal leaders of the Sudan. No justice yet. She leaned her head to the side and looked around again, and turned around and looked at all of those eyes looking back at her, and then she spoke. But we have patience that anything is possible. The power of one can be mighty. She started to speak in their language. Many stood up in awe of her mastery of their language of Orion. Iknake no ata, etalata wa esta no, anatane elnui anuntala ega, alatala ausu sa. Translation: It is not humble to be grateful for those that fed you, to be respected in preserving the peace that they seek. Many more stood and clapped as she proceeded now towards the remaining steps pathway, towards Orion that was sitting on his throne, and he was standing before the moment passed as Queen Hagar made her way towards him. Queen Hagar spoke. I asked the great one, others know him at take you. So nice to see you again, she said, that only he could hear. On this unwelcome event, due to General Hanee's disappearance and a forthcoming vote, I ask you of the rule of Mitzrayim, as she raised her voice so others can hear. On Tamad, that we speak in private of our thoughts before your forthcoming event therein of the votes of who it will be. Ruler William spoke. You may. He motioned his guards, and Queen Hagar walked in front as Woon followed. About the half of the guards with Queen Hagar stood in attention around the throne of Orion, and everyone in the audience watched in awe. Moments later, with just the two of them walking to his chambers and their attendants and guards closely behind, they speak telepathically. Orion said, I am so mourning of what you have been through. Queen Hagar responded, I am aware it was not of your ruler decisions, but the decision of the Ukneo Council members. We learned of Echo and Natu, as well as this Lanko later after the war. Wayun responded and nodded. I am interested in what you know and to say of this forthcoming vote, to whom it shall be. Queen Hagar responded, will it matter when all of this is done between our talks? She stopped, and he stopped as well, and they looked at one another as his elder years continued to flow of his years of ruling, and remember when she was a little girl learning the culture and language that seemed to engulf her as one of that experience, to now speak it so well as a native. Wayun responded and said, it may. The forces that wants to cause harm to you and your people are weary of no major winds and tiring out. General Hanee had more support underground of the Optites people. Queen Hagar said, oh yes, I remember them. And the migration to land always was their pursuit. I can see if they felt that General Hanee could compromise and help them. Wayun responded, and he started to continue to back walking as Queen Hagar followed, and they walked side by side, heading to the Royal Orion King Chambers, which is a few more feet away. Wayun responded. Wayun said, I must ask, how is your mother, Queen Mother Mimi? Queen Hagar smiled. She is of whole of Espu. Wayun replied, still beautiful. I am around. Queen Hagar turned to look at him for a moment and smiled. Wayun was about to open the doorway to his War Chambers meeting that adjoined with his high guards, did so for them and motioned them in. Wayun said, and I see you are with child. It is a blessed soul. Queen Hagar nodded and rubbed her belly and said, assure. Indeed. They entered his royal king meeting chambers, and 10 other guards and advisors also as well, and stood afar. Queen Hagar turned to the floor-length window that showed both the underwaters and the skies above in Orion, as the oval-shaped room hummed a particular melody that she remembered as a child. Wayun stood next to her, and then she said, I know this time is not of easiness for those that have to decide on this major decision, but although in ruling over a kingdom or planet, choices matter because it impacts so many. And that's why I am here, my husband is here, my family, and those of the Ukneo. Wayun nodded as he looked down for a moment and looked straight out as well. Then Queen Hagar said, still looking forward into the abyss before them, spoke in his Orion language. Ukneo rask na asata ne baluna lila a yukin a aya puna na ala ne sekala towe aza ena bana numpi asa ewu waza alonona unintu Translation: we seek you to select a strong, balanced leader on the Ukneo Council. And I seek peace as the calming waters beg us to do so before us. Herein. End scene.
All right, so with that particular clip, I really loved it. I loved how Queen Hagar positioned herself ready to speak in front of all of those Orions there. This is in the star constellation of Orion. I love how I was able to talk about before that happened and everybody was kind of talking. They was at the palace in Egypt. They was, sharing ideas of what would be the best way. King Mahlon was with his advisors. Then fast forward, they are in Orion, traveled from the starship there to Orion, and how everyone felt confident that it should be Queen Hagar speak because she know them in the sense. So at least most of them in that regard. Be where, like here, you was, raised in one state or what have you, but you go to college in another city or another country. Think of it that way. But for Hagar, she like went to study or experience in another galaxy. Now that's deep, okay? That's power, all right? And they adored her. So that clip that I just played kind of give you an insight of that. I highly recommend it. It's where we're connecting how important in world and galactical wise that Egypt was back in the day, and how a queen can rise that high, that level of influence. Influence is everything. So anyhow, I really enjoyed doing that episode 63. So then we're going to move forward to the next part, and we're going to talk about character profiles. So before I get into the next one's going to be season 1. I just went over season 6 on that episode to catch up on my director clip notes. Right now we're going to talk about character profiles. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but really with character profiles, I did this in season 1, and that was in 2018 from February the 5th. I'm looking here to all the way to April the 2nd. So I only did a few. I just felt at that time I needed to kind of take a break and kind of let people introduce into my story. This is basically my first season doing podcasting. So I have one on Queen Hagar, I have one on Echo, Tahib, Ezra, Natu, Queen Mother Manet, Princess Hanee, Qamar Data, and King Mahlon. Let's start at Queen Hagar. We just went over that. She's the mother of Princess Amina, and it will be eventually a Queen Hanee, but Princess Hanee as well. And in my book, she does have another child. I couldn't get into that one, but nonetheless, I do a breakdown of Queen Hagar, so do check that out. It was released February the 15th, 2018. I was on another platform, I think it was Spreaker, what have you. So by the time a couple years later I moved to here, Podbean, it was more. So right now it's just showing it's 385. And that's just basically the time that I moved, because sometimes I guess you lose your stats. Next character is Echo. So Echo is the one that was very close to Hanee. That's the one that made it to a certain point and no longer. And him and Natu did not get along. That's competitive. But Echo was the main pointed leader to go to Mitzrayim and find what we call later the Astar. What is the Astar? You got to tune in and keep going to find out. Okay, so do find out that he's an Orion. The next one is Tahib. He's the father of Queen Hagar. So grandfather Tahib is in my book, and he's in these short stories here on my podcast show. So he has a lot of knowledge, a lot of power, a lot of influence. He's known pretty much everywhere. And he marries, which would be Queen Hagar's mother. So do follow when I mention him because he's very important. It's like several portals with him with Tahib. And just not talking about this now on December the 16th, 2025. He is connected to the pyramids NFTs that I'm doing. I call it PMTR for short. Period Mystery Temple Reunion. He was over the temples, the knowledge, the social, the secret societies in the sense of in Egypt. And there's an episode, I believe it's in season 1, where it's him and it's somebody else that goes down south near Sababra, what have you, to meet up with one of the tribal leaders. Part of that can lead to a temple. Only he would know that. That's why he traveled. I believe it was with Kamratata. The other character is going to be Ezra. Ezra is important. He's the father of Nahar. If you look at my podcast series here, there's a series that I created, the future series of Nahar and Princess Amina. So Ezra is the high herbalist, like the high doctor, scientist. They had it back then in Egypt, of the palace of Queen Hagar and King Mahlon. The next character is Natu. Again, Natu was the first Orion into the season 1. Do check him out. That was released May the 5th, 2018. Right now it's showing 530 downloads. After that is Queen Mother Mana, and she's the mother of Queen Hagar. She has other daughters too. Queen Hagar has a sister and a brother. We don't get into that in my book, but I do plan to kind of expand on that. Prior to that is Princess Hanee. She is the first child between King Mahlon and Queen Hagar. So do check her out. She will become a queen, which we will now call to the rulership of Ghana. So that flows out later. And then we have Kamratata. He becomes general by the time we get to season 2. In the book, he's already the general, going back in time and this, so do check him out. And then the last one, of course, is King Mahlon. So he's the father of Princess Amina. So those right there represents the connecting of my book into the series. So we're going to move on to the next part, which is basically talking about reviewing episode 22. So we're going to go ahead and look at that. And episode 22 represents, it says, it's a clip snippet that I did back then where I was on Patreon, and then people can, get the full story. But nonetheless, that's where you can go. That's where you would have went to kind of get the full story. I'm going to play I decided just to do one clip, and then if you want to kind of listen to the whole clip or the whole episode, you can do that by either searching for it or just I have it in the description here. So I'm only going to actually play one clip, and I just did that for episode 63. This one is called Ancient Essence from the Nile Heals All Runes. So for this one in season 1, episode 22, it's where Queen Hagar sent a message to her parents about what happened before episode 1. Episode 1 is where King Mahlon is off the scene. He is wounded. He was in a battle with these tribal leaders and all of that. Nobody don't know where he at. And the two to Orion want to know because, they thinking they winning. Where is he? And Queen Hagar, you don't even know where is he. You talking to the ruler now. I'm wanting it. What do you want? That's what episode 1 is that I love. Okay? So that with that done and said, fast forward, she still has, pain in her heart of what happened to her husband. He's wounded, what have you. She's still pregnant. She's still pregnant today. Because this is how you can take a moment, and you can write about it, if you got it, in a sense, God blessing you with the talent there to keep going, and have not had her to give birth yet to figure out, is that Princess Amelia or is that some, another baby that they having? Nonetheless, this here is where she reached out to her mother, her father, and they're there to support her. And that's what this is about. So I really love it. Do check out that episode. It's very, very good, of connecting the family and trying to help one another when they're going through emotional distress because of someone that they love. All right. So with that done and said, and she was angry too because it was kept messing with her husband. So I guess all in all, when I look back of all that from season 1 and the characters, I'm building a foundation of like a tree, and it branches out with branches. That's why the characters are so vivid, and they're coming in different ways, like the tribal leaders. That's a whole different episode to go over. But I think all in all, when I look at doing it as a director, I wanted people to connect the emotion of each of the characters to reflect what they was going through, how they dealt with it. In this episode, the clip snippet, Ancient Essence from the Nile Heals Our Wounds. Even the titles, I love how I kept coming up with these different titles. Even I love it. I mean, I really loved it. This one right here shows how in the Nile River is symbolic of water healing. It's great history on this planet. And it just, I wanted to kind of like connect with that and that let people know, to show the message that within hope, within promise, within faith, you can heal all wounds. And with the Nile River being so historic in itself, I wanted to tap into that. And then for Queen Hagar, what she went through, the battle and all of that, and healing her husband, it's a lot. So I want to kind of touch on that. All right. So then with that, I'm going to pivot to my MOLIAE world. So MOLIAE World, if you're just joining me, it's a part of my journey of turning my book, which is this podcast show, into a feature film. So one of the big news right here as of right now is that I'm about to re-release my PMTR NFTs. And again, PMTR represents Period Mystery Temple Reunion. It's 10,000 NFTs. It's these pyramids that I design in the sense of designing the artwork in the sense of bringing it together and having this final composition of it that can help film my dream to make my book a film. The symbolic of the pyramids represents unity, represents community, it represents family. They are intellectual beings that we shape to understand, and we call it a pyramid. So on my Twitter, on MOLIAE World Twitter, I go down that list, or you could just go to my website and click on the story, and it will take you through what I'm setting up to release soon, the first short story of my PMTR. So my NFTs are not just, it's artwork and that's it. My creativity and artwork it's a foundation of building, this ecosystem. And with that, the stories are connected. So that makes it unique if you was interested in being one of those to get one when it re-release. As of this particular airing, I'm not going to say the release date. It's not announced, but when I do, be ready to get one. Because also on my NFT, I might actually leave a picture of one of the NFTs in the description. It has a serial number. So I'm into numbers because numbers are everything. Numbers, it's a book of numbers in the Bible for a reason. It has astrology with it. It has a meaningful, it has these characters, these people that all sets up are looking for a warrior to retrieve their very special, powerful swords. And they find a warrior to do that. That's under the lion's genealogy. And the surfboards come into play of what the pyramids use when they carried that. They use that as suitcases. It's a long, cute story about why with the surfboards, but nonetheless, that's a part of the mystery. That's a part of the interest of it. And I feel real confident when I'm ready to announce when I'm releasing those short stories. For right now, if you go to MOLIAE.com or my Twitter page on MOLIAE World, I kind of give you that backstory. They do have children, so they're like a higher, profound thought type entity that we're symbolically looking at them and visualize them as a pyramid shape. They was highly considered as temples back in the day in ancient Egypt, so I'm bringing that back again. So with all that, the re-release is coming. I'll let you know soon on that. The other thing, of course, is to touch on my own NFTs to explain that. So the Pyramid Mystery Temple Reunion, you have to go to the mint.molieworld.com to mint that. We'll make an announcement of when that's available so you can collect one of your own. My NFTs as well. So that's my NFT PMTR, but I have another collection connected to my songs, my music. You can get that now. It's just not through the Mint page. You would have to do that like on another third party. That could be Ocean Sea, I believe that you can call it. But nonetheless, you buy the song, you automatically get one for free. Then that would be my music covers of my song that I would make a unique artwork just for that. You will get the serial number to it. You get identification that is yours, and you can choose to mint it or not. Minted is more putting it on the blockchain, similar to what they do with transactions and other things. It's on the Ethereum network. Think of Bitcoin and they talk about cryptocurrency and all that. It's like that type of arena where it would be, where you always have a digital receipt to show the authentic of my creation. Okay, so that's that. And I guess the other thing is the utility to kind of talk about right quick. But I think if you go to MOLIAE World, you will click on collections, and that's going to tell you all the goodies that you would get if you so choose. Okay. And utility of NFT is the benefits that you get when you buy one. Now we're pivoting back to the PMTR collection. And when you click on collection on MOLIAEworld.com, it'll talk about all the utilities that you get. Also with the pyramids is with the Pyramid Mystery Temple Reunion, it has so many symbols that I created another feature by getting one is understanding the numerology of the one that you get. And there's a book, the decode book, that helps you to decode it with the numbers, the serial number, the shapes, colors, what does it mean, the character. So that helps to kind of define that. And on the PMTR, some of the things of the utilities that you would get, I kind of go through that for the person so they can kind of have an understanding of it and all of that. And you will find that out on my webpage, MOLIAE World. Okay. So what we're going to do is kind of go from there. Okay. And see how that goes. All right. So we got, and yes, a lot going on MOLIAE World. You'll have to check that out. But nonetheless, that's for that. And let's see, is there anything else that I wanted to cover to kind of get you an understanding of it? And I'll just do another episode on my PMTRs. But right quick on the utility, you'll get like a VIP exclusive access. You'll get a free certificate of ownership for each NFT with a serial number. You'll get access to MOLIAE and Golden Power production events. You also get access to the marketplace, MOLIAE.com and my MOLIAEbeauty.com. Do check that out. I do offer luxury essential oils for men and women, and you can go check it out at MOLIAE Beauty, okay? Exclusive access to the Discord channel. You get a membership card and be part of the first access to the MOLIAE token, which that's a token that you can use to buy things, okay? And first dibs on when we release the Lions Legends, because they're the one that's going to be chosen to go find the swords, the Hutata swords. All right, very interested in that. I think that covers everything. Thank you so much for checking in with my episode. I appreciate you, and I'll talk to y'all in the next one. Thank you for following MOLIAE. Thank you for your support, and have a good one.